That one. But let's turn our attention now to Tampa, Florida, where our next live trial is underway, and we are calling this one the Dog Park Murder Trial.
And the defendant in this one is Gerald Radford. He is charged with murdering Walt in a dog park back in 2024. And prosecutors say that Radford fatally shot Lay, and witnesses say that he taunted the victim for months in this dog park because the victim was gay. Radford says it was all self-defense.
Before we get you into that courtroom in Tampa, let's take a closer look at how we did get here. For more background on this case, here's Court TV anchor Ted Rowlands.
The only issue here, and he comes up to me and screams at me, "You're gonna die, you're gonna die."
That's John Walt Lay on February 1st, 2024, talking about an incident at a Tampa dog park where he was a regular. The next day, Lay was shot and killed at the dog park by another regular by the name of Gerald Radford. Radford would say that Lay attacked him, repeatedly hitting him in the face.
Did your client feel threatened and was carrying the gun that day because of this escalating conflict, or did he take the gun there every time he went to the park?
I'm not going to touch on that at the moment, but what here's the thing. It's perfectly legal to carry a firearm.
But other regulars at the park say Radford had harassed Lay for months, repeatedly using homophobic slurs.
Did you hear him yelling at Walt?
Yes.
What did he say?
Here comes the
He said this in front of the whole group of
in
folks
front of
here.
the whole group. Yep.
One issue that's expected to be debated at trial, how the men were oriented when the fatal shot was fired. Radford claims that he was on the ground with the victim on top of him.
And he twisted it down like, here's his hands now, like that. Well, it would be this way. Like that, trying to turn it back towards me. And I guess it was his thumb in the trigger guard. I don't know which one, but I distinctly felt a finger on top of that firearm, on top of my finger on the trigger.
So the gun would be in this, something like this. So you have to be holding it in some manner so that you could reach the trigger. And that would have to be at this angle because it's got to go to the back on the left side.
Chief Medical Examiner Kelly Devers says the fatal shot was fired in a downward direction.
Can we agree that it would be impossible for the person on top to basically be straight up and down their torso and be shot in that position?
It would be very hard if they were sitting like that.
I mean, the guy on the ground
could do it.
Radford is facing a possible life sentence for one count of second-degree murder. Prosecutors are seeking hate crime charges if he's convicted.
The jury heard opening statements in this trial this morning. Both the prosecutor and defense attorney claim the defendant did use derogatory terms to harass the victim about his sexual orientation.
And as we watch this together, we do want to warn you that the attorneys use those homophobic slurs during their opening statements. We have edited out those phrases to bring you some of the highlights from those opening statements. Take a listen.
You will hear that as these two men are having different views on these topics and other topics, you will learn that the defendant becomes the aggressive, hostile one. He's the guy saying, and you will hear from people at the park who will say the victim never got angry, never got hostile, never got aggressive. Eventually, he kind of hit the boiling point and he was like, we can't keep doing this. Like, I can't endure this forever. But Mr. Radford persisted. And you will hear from people who were there, who told Mr. Radford to his face, you can't talk to people like that. It's 2024. You can't run around calling people. And still he persisted. He increased the aggression. He increased the hostility. You will hear how people saw him going up to the victim and blocking his path as if to provoke a fight. And you will hear how Mr. Radford was always very clever to say, but I'm not going to be the guy who starts the fight with the gay guy. The defendant is going to claim self-defense. Gerald Radford shot and killed John Walter Lay. Mr. Lay was not armed with a knife or a baseball bat or a gun or anything remotely resembling a deadly weapon. And he shot him. And you're going to have to decide whether or not he did that legally. And at the end of the trial, the judge will explain to you what the self-defense laws are, and I expect you will hear something like, the defendant must have reasonably believed that he was either going to die or suffer great bodily harm. And there will be pictures, plenty of pictures of the defendant. He'll have a few cuts and scrapes on his face, no broken bones, no shattered teeth, no fractured nose, no broken arms. You'll have to decide whether or not he reasonably believed that he needed to shoot John Walter Lay to prevent death or great bodily harm. But I will submit to you that Mr. Radford's claim of self-defense will fail because it will be clear to you from all of the history, from both the words of the people who shared the dog park, but even from the defendant himself, that the person who was the aggressor, the person who most reasonably would have started the entire fight, was the defendant. And you will hear that if the defendant is the aggressor, if he's the guy committing a crime, then he would have had a duty to retreat. He can't pull a gun, he's got to try and get away. Because you can't start a fight and then be upset that you get your butt kicked in a fight and say, I'm going to shoot somebody.
We concede that the state's going to parade many people before you. And it's going to be ad nauseum. You're going to hear the same thing over and over again. He uses this language. We know he admits that. His views are harsh. We know that. He's aggressive. He's in your face. We know that. Well, Deck himself will tell you, I can be So from the time of COVID on, this animosity begins to grow because Walt and Deck definitely do not see eye to eye. And Walt does not like the use of the slurs. But what you won't hear is at any point it becoming physical. Over those years, despite what was said, the horrible things that might have been said, it was never physical. So despite the bickering, and you can't tell me there wasn't bickering back and forth, despite that, Walt and Deck never got physical. Well, obviously that changed. That changed on February 2nd. We believe that the evidence you're going to see supports the fact that an altercation was started by Walter and Declan was forced to defend himself. We believe that he was fed up with the bullcrap at the dog park. Just fed up with it. Tired of the arguing. Tired of it. And when he sees Deck there, he makes a beeline for him. And Deck is over by those washing tubs that Mr. Diaz talked about. And in coming at him, Walt could have made the decision to walk around this platform and go to the other side. But instead, he walks around to the same side that Declan's on. And as he does this, he says to him, "Why do you come here? We hate you here." Deck says some time passes, and before he knows it, whack, he's hit in the face with some object. And he is using part of his body to pin down Declan's left leg. So once they're down on the ground, Walt began to, what Dex referred to as hammer fist him. So hit it, striking him like this. Now remember, he's over the top of him. He's not punching him directly. He's beating down on him like this, over and over and over again. And this is consistent, by the way, with the evidence you're going to see, including bruising to the outer part of Walt's hands and dirt, lots of it, covering what you wind up seeing are pretty deep abrasions on the knees of Walt, which tells us he was on his knees over Declan. So now you have this larger man, taller man, 13 years his junior, over the top of him, beating him, raining down these fists. He believes about 15 to 20 more seconds of this, and there's no sign of it stopping. And of course he feared for his life in that moment. He is completely powerless against this man. And that left him with no choice but to try to retrieve his firearm that he carried for personal protection from behind him. And Deck is able to manipulate and move over and get that firearm. And he brings that firearm, and he gets that 9mm up to the side of about the mid-torso of Walt, and that's when they begin to struggle over this gun. They both have their hands on the gun, and it's twisting, and it's moving, and it's up, and it's down. And then there's a loud bang, a bright light, and Declan has shot Walt.